welcome everyone to Sunday Sentiments.
Of course, this is a hate crime.
And if she's found guilty, then she has to face the consequences.
They normally end up killing some particular kinds of people.
It's a violation of human rights.
That's a very traumatic event.
So I just wanted to ask the panel about their own opinions on this topic.
Welcome everyone to part 2 of our sports. Today we're talking about football's link to domestic abuse, racism, and toxic masculinity. I would like to highlight that we're not saying that every sports fan that is a male is toxic or engages in domestic abuse or is racist. We're just talking about the links of this as brought out by the Euro 2020. So I will just quickly show you a shared screen just to show you how some women feel about football matches, because not everyone is excited about football matches. I know some of us are big fans, but there are women who actually this is not a good thing. So there is the Independent. It says, for victims of domestic violence, the England final isn't something to celebrate. Okay, so a lot of women actually before this final, they were really hoping England would win, or women were hoping Italy would win. Why? Not because they have some special, love for football, but because of their safety. And this is because, for example, in the UK, it was found that the last World Cup, when England lost, domestic violence rose by 36%. And also when England wins, it still rises and up to 26%. So win or lose, women who are abused are in trouble. This is because of the high levels of emotion that is connected to the sport, the drinking, and just if somebody's already an abuser, all of that put together just leads to like a lot of issues for women, and all the toxic masculinity seems to just show itself in the sense of hooliganism, violence, and all sorts of things. So I want to ask the panel, did you see any news about the results of the Euro 2020 that caught your eye? Do you know anything about rise in domestic abuse when people win or lose a match? I want to just hear from the panel if this is something you've noticed yourself. Okay, we're gonna have Shiro and then Jamila, please.
What I found perplexing was the racist response to it, with the English people saying that they lost because of the black players, and of course they use the N-word against them. It's very strange because it reminded me of France when France won the World Cup. And Trevor Noah, the comedian, said Africa won the World Cup because the French team was made up of Africans, and the French people were not happy with that statement. They were saying, no, they are French because they won the World Cup. But now with England, when they lose, suddenly they are being insulted and being called the N-word because they lost. But if they had won, they'd have been embraced as Englishmen. It's just weird the way sometimes sports can bring just the worst out of people, the worst and the best sometimes.
Yeah, thanks, Shiro. In response to what you said, this is the news that came out immediately after these 3 guys who, unfortunately, all 3 of them were black, lost the penalties. They got a barrage of abuse, and also there was a lot of really actually scary stuff on the internet, I think one of you will share. I saw one very scary one telling people what they can go and do to Black people. So that really brought out some of the worst, nastiest racist out. It was good to see that this voice got a lot of support also from people. So not everyone was horrible. After that, everyone drowned in to give them the support, but it was just shocking. Also, don't forget there are other footballers in other teams around the world, not just England, who've been called monkeys and bananas thrown on the pitch and all sorts of nasty, nasty stuff against players because of the color of their skin. So next we'll have Jamila and then Shakira, please.
So me personally, I wanted to talk about how like this is very like, you know, fueled in misogyny. I think they have the audacity to act out in this way just because of a football game. But if a woman was to overreact like this, they would be like, oh, women, they have so many emotions, like they're too emotional, but then they beat up their wives, their girlfriends, and their kids over a football game being lost that they had nothing to do with. Like personally, it's too much. And I just think that we need to talk about how they actually have so much privilege to the point of where they think they can go around beating people up because someone lost the game and it wasn't them. And it's embarrassing, especially for this country as well, that those are the stats, and they continue to take pride in them having a football team when this football team hasn't even succeeded for like 6 years. And they're still continuously acting like that. It's too much.
Thank you, Jamila. You're saying, which is a very good point, that women are always called emotional, and you know, when you get excited over things, you're told you're being too emotional or dramatic. But then you have grown men who are going around being overly emotional over a game, beating up people, being violent and aggressive, and all sorts of things. So it is a bit misogynistic if you think of it, that on one hand, this is seen to be like, oh, it's passion, you know, they're so passionate. And then on the other hand, when women are emotional and dramatic and excited, it's like, oh, it's too much, women are too emotional. I agree, Jamila. There needs to be more of a discussion around the violence and the toxic masculinity that surrounds a lot of sport. Okay, next we'll have Shakira and then Keshi. Shakira? Okay, let's have Keshi, please.
I just wanted to say that what you mentioned about the increase in domestic violence when England loses, this was actually a study. I got interested because as people were tweeting about results of the match and how so much excitement here in Denmark, in England, and so on, people also tweeted what you just screen shared. I think with a woman with the England flag and with blood all over. And this was actually from a study done by Lancaster University about the number of domestic abuse cases that were reported during the year 2002, 2006, and 2010 World Cups. And according to them, the study found that the risk of domestic abuse increased by 26% when England team won or drew, or it rose by 38% when the national team lost. So because of this, many charities in England, like Women's Aid and so on, they were tweeting support for women who are in danger, and also trying to say that football does not cause domestic abuse, but behaviors. There are some certain sexist behaviors that underpin violence against women and girls. This was the message. So I found it interesting because I didn't know there was such a connection, but it makes, when you look at the type of people, especially the hooliganish behavior, plus the racism that was seen, then you can imagine that these people, when they go home, especially now that England lost to Italy, what kind of situation would be at home. So I found interesting the connection, and it is a thing, it is actually a study that has been proven to be right. So yeah, it was interesting to get this information.
Yeah, thank you very much, Keshi, for sharing that. Yeah, it's actually quite worrying. And as we said, and that study said as well, we're not saying football causes this, but there's a lot of toxic masculinity behavior around some of the fans. And it's really evidenced online, offline, you know, because some people are saying, oh, this is just online because of the racial abuse that the 3 young lads got. Oh, this is just online. But the reason they were taking the knee was not because of online abuse. It was because of offline, on the pitch abuse that they get when they're playing. So there just seems to be a lot of funny behaviors, really discriminatory, damaging, nasty behavior at these sports games. And I'm going to say, and that's why I said sports law, they're self-regulatory. You don't really see governments intervening and say, this is enough. This domestic abuse linked to sports needs to stop. Racism linked to sports needs to be stopped, and putting, you know, means and ways to regulate this kind of behavior and criminalize it. Shamsa, please. Where's Shamsa?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. So, you know, after the football match, Twitter deleted 1,000 hate messages from the Twitter. So it was on the peak. And apart from that, a new study has found that domestic violence increases after football matches by 5% every 2 hours. So this was, you know, due to this is caused by excessive alcohol consumption during matches. Domestic violence specialists call for a change to social drinking culture to protect women and children. So culture should be changed here to protect the ladies and the children. So that this is the reason either England win or lose, the violence will be at, you know, the peak. So culture should be changed.
Thank you, Shamsa. Yes, you have pointed out that win or lose, women who are abused after games, the abuse rates go high, you know, and it's just sad when you think of it. It's really, really sad. And the law does not protect women against this. And the law also does not really, even though there's laws here and there against bodily harm and racism and whatever, they're not criminalizing this behavior at football matches and when people go home from football matches. So this link has been found in research, but now we need something to be done about it. We don't want to just hear about it. We want something to be done about it. Somebody sent a text saying they would like to say something, but I'm not sure who it is.
I think it's me.
Okay, yeah. So Marie-Claire and then Jose, please.
Yeah, I agree with what Shamsa said. Definitely, there is alcohol. Just if you're normally abuser and then you consume a lot of alcohol, obviously you're going to even be worse. So she could definitely agree with you when it comes to sport law. I can give you an example. I mean, we know already that domestic abuse has not been the law here in the UK. I don't know about the law in other countries, but in the UK, the law hasn't really been taken domestic abuse as a criminal. So there is a new Act 2021, which has been put in place, but still, as I think a martial action, you know, speaks more than words. We'll see what's going to happen until really it's criminalized. I don't think it's going to be taken seriously. Anyway, for example, I can give you an example. I think there is a case of David Beckham. This is a little bit outside of what we're discussing, but I think when it comes to footballer, they're being regarded as rich men, celebrities. So they have money to pay whatever criminal they can do, you know, just hire a good lawyer who knows how to go around the case, then you win. So it's already cases are taken, you have to pay so much money. And if you don't have much money, like a footballers or rich men, how are you going to actually fight them? So I think really, yeah, for an example, I'm not saying that, you know, David Beckham is really a good image for a footballer for the kids, but there was a case where he was actually driving in London. It was an accident, but because he had a good lawyer, it was just he won. So this is again, it's just like there is this image I want to bring it, that a footballer, whether you're I'm probably talking about footballers actually, if any footballer is, you know, abuse or whatever, if they have money, obviously they're more likely to win it, to buy off and whatever. But definitely when it comes to alcohol, I really think that the abuser will get worse.
Yeah, exactly. And as Shamsa and Keshi said, also the emotion is involved. So it's alcohol, the high emotion, whether they win or lose, there's a high emotion. And then who suffers? It's the women, or if somebody is also racist, it's if they meet a minority person, then they will attack them. It's all this, it is toxic masculinity, really, at the end of the day. And this really needs to be more action around this issue, and not just, you know, research being done or laws that are there that are not actually enforced because it's sport and it's untouchable, or if it's a sportsman and they're untouchable. Thank you, Marie-Claire. Jose, please.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that you were going to talk about. I mean, to ask if we know people who experienced domestic abuse afterwards, and yeah, I've got a friend. I've got a friend. She has a friend that has an Englishman, and that friend of my friend is an Italian. The husband started abusing the wife and the kids together. So she had to ask her friend to go and spend the night to her place because it was getting worse. You know, she was being shouted at, almost being beaten because of losing. So and the other thing is that the woman is also Black. She's a Black Italian, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah. And the other thing is, I always do aerobics on Monday, and I'm the only Black person in the group. I didn't go on Monday.
Yeah.
And the reason why I didn't go is I just wanted to avoid, you know, maybe they were not going to show it directly, but I know that the atmosphere wasn't going to be good. Yeah. And since the week before, they had said, oh yeah, see you next Monday when, you know, when we'll be celebrating, you know, our the cup being at home. So I was like, no, I'm not going. I didn't go. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you, Jose. I mean, a lot of us, thank you for your point. A lot of us did think, whoa, it's unsafe. And we have heard of some stories of people just being attacked, you know, in the city near Wimbledon, or Wembley, sorry, not Wimbledon, Wembley. Just because of the result of a match. You're saying to us here that somebody actually was beating or abusing his wife, his actual wife, because she's Italian and he's English, because a game was lost. I don't even understand. Jamila, your point about women being told they're emotional and dramatic. I think to me this is like the most emotional and dramatic response to the outcome of a game. To go around being violent hooligans, abusing and beating up people because a game was lost. It's just it's pathetic and it's just unbelievable. Does anyone want to add a point before we wrap up? I think we've actually done really well. Anyone want to add a point? Okay, Keshi, one last point and then we wrap up. Thank you.
Yeah, once again, I want to say that there was a poll made by YouGov UK for football fans in England and across Europe regarding racism in the game. And this survey reveals that 90% of fans in Britain thinks racism remains a problem in football. 79% of ethnically diverse fans think racism is a serious issue, with 44% of fans in England and 56% in both Scotland and Wales agreeing. So it just goes to show that many people are aware that racism in football, not just in the UK, but also across Europe, is a big problem. So like you said, things, all these booing people because of the color of their skin, throwing banana skins, booing people because they take a knee. The people who organize these matches, I don't know who they are, they should actually seriously look at that sport and see what can be done. Because at the end of the day, it gives their sport a bad name, and it's not, sport is supposed to bring people together to celebrate, but it actually does the opposite. So they should look at that and see what they can do. There's a serious problem in football.
Thank you, Keshi, for your point. You yourself have proved what I was saying before. You were saying the people who organize should look at it and do something. I think the law of the country should look at this sport and start criminalizing this kind of behavior. Sports has had too much autonomy when it comes to law. They're allowed to regulate themselves. Look at how Wembley was policed. There weren't many police when people are jumping through the barriers, beating up people to get in to watch the game. There was a handful of security guards. I didn't see a policeman in sight. But then you have a peaceful protest for Sarah Everard or a Black Lives Matter protest, and it's properly policed, you know. So it's too much. Sports needs to be regulated by normal, you know, law, not just their own laws and regulations. That's my opinion. We're going to end now. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for everyone's comments. We really, I enjoyed that discussion. We learned a lot and we were quite honest as well with the first topic and this one as well, because we are women and both of these issues affect us as women. Like our videos, share our channel, you know. Right, thank you guys for joining. Really, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys.